I think the U.S. economy is on solid footing. I think we're going to continue to see modest levels of growth going forward. I don't think we're going to see a significant uptake in growth, and I certainly don't think we're going to fall back into a recession or see a substantive slowdown. So we probably look a lot like we have the last 5 or 6 years, but with a slightly upward trajectory. And I think the factors, and there are 4 of them that you need to focus on for U.S. economy and U.S. Growth prospects. And most of them come out of Washington and policy. So the first is, are we going to get healthcare reform? Second, are we going to get tax reform? Third, what are we going to see in terms of infrastructure spending, and what's going to happen on the regulatory front and regulatory rollback? So if we look at that, we've already seen some progress made on the regulatory front. Those are probably the easiest to get done, and the administration can implement those largely by executive order or have the agencies conduct business in different ways. And I think that's what's led to the modest pickup that we've seen in the last couple of numbers and some of the recent slightly better performance figures. And I think that trend will continue. We've seen an attempt to get healthcare reform going. That's stalled. They've tried it again. It stalled a second time. That's proving to be a little bit more difficult. So I think we've got to call into question when and if that will occur. I think ultimately it will happen because it has to happen, because the current model is not sustainable. But I don't think you can put a lot on it in terms of our outlook for the next 3, 6, 12 months, because it's probably going to take longer than that to occur. Tax reform, which I think there was a great deal of excitement about getting done, but I think it was also had to get done very early on in the administration. Here we are 200 days in. We don't have anything on the table in terms of tax reform. We're going to be running into midterm elections before we know it. So I think comprehensive tax reform, complete rewrite of the code is probably not going to happen. What I suspect is we'll end up with some modest tax reform, probably a movement down in the corporate tax rate. So marginally, that will be helpful, but not the big tailwind that people were hoping for. So I think those are the primary factors. On infrastructure, I think infrastructure spending will come. It's going to take, again, a little bit more time. But I do think both sides like to spend money. They'll figure out a way to spend money that works, and that'll be modestly stimulative. So if you think we were coming from a 1.5% GDP economy, I think we're transitioning to a 2 to maybe 2.5% GDP economy. We're certainly not getting to the 3 or 4% economy that the administration had talked about and the markets were looking for. But I think just as important, there's nothing on the horizon that would cause us to think we're going to go into a recession anytime soon. So I think this gradual path is the one that we're on, and I think overall that's reasonably constructive, for markets.
All investments are subject to risk, including the possible loss of the money you invest. For more information about SkyBridge Capital Multi-Advisor Hedge Fund Portfolio Series G, call 1-888-759-2730 to obtain a prospectus. Investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and other important information about a fund are contained in the prospectus. Read and consider it carefully before investing. This webcast is for educational purposes only. We recommend that you consult a professional advisor about your individual situation.